comparing these other exceptional IMs is speaking volumes to how well tuned the Neo 5 is, and I think what an amazing value it brings in 2023. Hello again, this is the Tone Deaf Monk. If you're rejoining me on my channel, I thank you very much. Take a little bit of a break there for a while because I honestly just didn't feel like reviewing anything, and I just felt like listening to stuff. Happens once in a while, and I just need to take a break. And if you're joining me for the first time, thank you very much for watching my little channel. Just as a reminder, for if you're just joining me, I'm not a professional reviewer. I am a man who has been in the audio industry since I was 17 years old, and I have a passion for it. And I just do this to help people with my impressions, if you understand what I like, to maybe understand if that's something that you would like and help you maybe avoid a pig or something that's truly worthy of your time and your money. Today, ISN Neo 5. Spoiler alert. Loving it. That's my videos. If I hate something, I'm honest about it. Because I'm not a professional reviewer and I buy most of my gear, you know that I'm not trying to shill something. And if I'm honestly, genuinely liking something and I'm positive about it, should I be more professional about it? Yeah, but that's not me. That's not who I am. If I love it, I want to share it. And that's me. That's the monk in me. So there we go. Let's go. It was kind of interesting, and because I bought this one, people always comment on my channel because they think I'm a professional reviewer. Say, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? Well, I only buy so much stuff or have so much stuff, and I let stuff go that I don't listen to. For classic, like an interest, the Yan Canon. I loved it very much, but I just didn't listen to it. And so then I sold it. So a bunch of them was like that. My Let's Shure EJ07Ms. Ended up buying some more stuff, and this is how I can afford to get new stuff to listen to. So... and stuff that I think that maybe is good value on the market. I stopped buying so many inexpensive ones just for now, just to take a break, because they were all sounding kind of the same to me. I sold the Canon. I was going to buy the new Canon, but at its price point, $350. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've said it a few times, I think it's a bit overpriced. As much as I love the original, I think they're a little bit out of touch. Same as C Audio and a couple other brands that I think that are just overpriced for what you get, the value and sound. And I could be wrong on that, but I didn't buy the new Canon. Instead, I bought the ISN Neo 5. Now, I like the H50 a lot, and it had a bit of a different tuning, and you either love it or hate it. It was really mid-bass focused. I'll talk about that. I'll do some more comparisons later in the video here. But let's talk about the ISN Neo 5. Well, first of all, I saw this purple shell, and honestly, I was, bing. I don't know what it was, but I really love the color. What do I like about this IM? Well, a lot, actually. Build and fit. First of all, let's just talk about that. Stainless steel nozzle makes the tips stick on. You'll see here that I'm using a JVC spiral dot. These are one of my favorite tips. They come in the right size, like a medium large for me. That's perfect. They've got a blue and red. I don't know why, but I need my colors to help me identify left and right. I don't know what it is. But medium, small, semi-custom shells are really, really gorgeous. If you want to see fitment, so my ears are, medium to medium large. Really, really nice. They fit quite nice. They sit flush. The cable that comes with the ISN are always great. They're typically well matched, and they're soft, they're flexible. My only issue with them is that they don't have any ear hooks, and I like ear hooks. So my impressions are done on both the stock cable and another cable that I bought, which is like a ISN G4 clone cable, right? It's the same cable but different ends. And I love the fact, too, that in the cables, I either think IM manufacturers should offer stuff without ear tips, cables, cases, and any of that stuff if you don't want to. So in this case, at least ISN offers you your choice of termination, whether you want single-ended, in 3.5 or 2.5 or 4.4, which I opted for. So I like that fact. I like the fact that the packaging is minimal. I like the fact that they actually give you a little carrying case that's usable. So nothing that I would not use or like the SoundRhyme SR7 I just had, the case was not pocketable, so it wasn't usable, and they gave another one with it was metal one, which you're not going to haul around. So 2 cases, but they both were useless and not really usable. So fit, excellent. Shell shape, excellent. Vented, excellent. What is it? It's 1 10mm dynamic driver and 4 Knowles balanced armatures, 2 for mids, 2 for highs. Pretty simple. So 1 plus 4. Pretty easy to drive over the even the H50 that this one, I'm not going to say takes over, but the newer model. So they were very same, 110 dB sensitivity, 26 ohms impedance. What does that mean? It means it's pretty easy to drive. The 2-pin cable, again, you can swap it out with anything aftermarket. And away you go. The other thing to note that I love about the ISNs, 18-month warranty. That's pretty good. I think that's way better than average on the market in Chi-Fi anyway. And I purchased this one unit, like I said, with a discount from PENON, and I say thank you, because it does help me. That's always great. Now, some other things that I really liked. I love the price point, first of all, at $279. I think this, so I've done a lot of reviews lately as well, and have listened to some that I didn't think that aren't gonna make it to any review. TRN T3 comes to mind, the CVJ Mai, the Kiwi Ears Quartet. These are what's coming to mind. Some of these are better than average. But what I noticed is that in their price bracket, say $100, you're getting a custom BA. So yes, it's a hybrid, but you can really tell the tonality, the timbre of those BAs. They really sound metallic, and they do have a unique sound. They don't sound like a dynamic driver highs. They do have a different sound. Then you can also hear a difference between a Knowles and a Sonian, one of those. It doesn't have so much of that. You can tell the better quality drivers. There you go. spit it out. And it's noticeable versus the cheaper one. So at $279, I think the Neo 5 is a clear upgraded path to a lesser expensive $150 IEM. So if you were looking for something that you wanted an upgrade but didn't know whether it was worth it to go to the money, I'm telling you that it is. Follow along. And also listen to the what I think this one sounds like, and if it sounds like something that you might like to pick it up. That's the whole entire reason why I do these reviews. The tuning change between the previous one I really like, the H50, and are very different, and I'll explain a little bit about that. So if you like the H50, this is not the same sound. They said they were going to go into a different direction, and they did, and I like what they did. The tuning on the Neo 5 is really well executed. It offers a very cohesive mix between the dynamic drivers and the 4 BAs. You can't really tell where one ends and one picks up. It's a really good experience if you're getting into balanced armatures. And if you've experienced BA timbre and you don't like that, then this is a set you might want to consider. The Neo 5 has bass. And I love it. It has some good snap, and the bass is kind of interesting, and I'll go more into that as well. So it is more sub-bass sided, but versus mid-bass, but it doesn't go to the lowest octaves, and I'm glad it doesn't. I think I'm going to change my target curve to actually have a roll-off in the subs, because I don't really want, there's nothing that really plays at 20 hertz, like pipe organ music. I don't listen to that shit. So it's nice that a driver can go there, but I don't really need it to. And if it doesn't need to go there, don't force it to go low, because then they'll try to do something it won't and make funny sounds. So let's not do that. So, and this is a good balance. It goes low, still has great mid-bass snap, which I love. My bass faster. Now for vocals, what else did I love? The slightly warm vocals. Again, I prefer slightly warm vocals versus thin and dry and more airy vocals, right? I think the vocals done on the Neo 5 are smooth in a kind of organic way. They're not thin, they're not veiled, they're not forward, and they're not recessed. They're kind of very neutral in how they present in the overall mix of music between the bass and the highs. The highs are smooth in the Neo 5. They give enough energy to add excitement, that's for sure, but not too much to add to make the Neo 5 fatiguing. And it definitely lets you turn up the music loud for long periods of time. So even on low volumes, it's very linear. So on low volumes, you still get lots of highs. And as you dial it up, it doesn't get sibilant or shouty or any of that stuff. So quite nice. The highs are crisp. You can tell the quality of the Knowles BAs. It brings out the cymbal crashes without getting splashy. So kudos to ISN for their tuning. What else did what did I think that the Neo 5 kind of needed improvement on that I wanted to see? I would say more upper treble energy. I think when I'll give track impressions as well. So I think it needed a little bit more energy, the missing link to make female vocals perfect for me. I like a little bit more energy. Not that made the female vocal sound off. It just made them sound one octave lower than I think they should have been. So, slight bass bleed into female vocals you do get with the amount of energy that the Neo 5 puts out. And not, again, in a negative way, just it adds more coloration to male and female vocals. So if you were a person that valued perfect tonality, uncolored vocals, you didn't like you liked a less warm presentation, you will notice it. I I found also the stage quite intimate, just average, not exceptionally 3D, and even with the wide bore tips. And it's because it's interesting because you read other people's impressions about the stage. The stage is this, and it's wide, and it's holographic, compared to what? Right? So we'll get into that as well. So compared to the other things that I was comparing against, it was the most intimate, just, here and in the middle of your head. It wasn't massively 3D, holographic. And so, I mean, if that's what you're looking for, you'd probably need an IM that has more upper treble energy to do that with. Okay. Let's do some overall track impressions. Not overall impressions per se, but just when I'm listening to stuff, when I'm listening to tracks, what did I think of how it replayed that particular track? So let's start off. Never Be Me, the live version by Miley Cyrus. There was a nice balance between the bass lines, the vocals, and the highs. Right off the bat, I said the Neo 5 is perfect for this genre. It plays rock really well. Prayer by Hani Arani. So she is the piano player who has the mics and on the keys and in the back. But this particular track, I wanted to just listen to. In this one song, it has some really low droning bass drops. And in the Neo 5 did it really well. It presented it really well. You could tell, I've heard lower, like the PENON 10th plays it lower than this. But the piano still sounds right. Again, not the lowest of the low sub bass, but bass seems to be, on the Neo 5, the bass seems to be focused in the lower bass, not so much in the sub bass. And not in the mid bass. So think, 50, 60 to 100 hertz has the most amount of energy, where mid bass would be 100 to 300, right? Somewhere in there to give it more snap. So definitely more lower bass oriented, and it shows it in that particular track. So check it out. Nicki Minaj and Will I Am. So Nicki's vocals here are front and center, big bass hits. And it's nice to hear that the Neo 5 can tickle your ear hairs while still being sweet on vocals. And that's pretty good, where you got a lot of bass energy, but it's not washing out the vocals. I think the Neo 5 favors male vocals over female vocals because of the more energy in the sub and the mid bass. And here, where I found that it had a little bit too much energy in the female vocals to be perfectly accurate, while the male vocals sounded perfect. Rock Wonderland, Kim Mitchell. I listened to the song. It has fast, snappy mid bass. And enough highs to make rock music again truly fun to listen to at volumes. So I find IEMs that have lots of treble energy, I can't turn it up because it's too much for me. I'm a little treble sensitive, and I find I need to turn it down, where something like this, I can turn it up. There you go. Queen of New York City, Matchbox 20. Male vocals, again, so good. Lots of bass energy. And the vocals don't get still washed out, and I think that's important. It's nice to have bassy IM, but I don't want to just hear bass. And the ISN Neo 5 doesn't wash it out. It's quite nice. Cashmere, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant. Love this track. I'm wishing a bit more upper energy, but the vocals and the drums, they sounded so good. So getting a good feel as I'm going through my track list, of what the Neo 5 was about. Not every track can be wow, wow, there had to be something that give you the impressions of the I Am, and that's what I'm trying to relay back to you. Money for Nothing, Dire Straits. This is a great track for getting a sense of dynamics too, right? So here the Neo 5 did a better than average job of the replay, enough to make the track exciting, but it shows the limitations of its tuning and drivers compared to IEMs like the PENON 10th. At almost double the price though, right? You have to understand that. You got to give credit to the Neo 5 for what it can achieve at this price point, and it is impressive, and it's worth noting for sure. All I want to do is make love to you, by heart. A good track to listen to female vocals. The Neo 5, I'd never make it as a singer. The Neo 5 plays this back so nicely. Are the vocals perfect? No, they're not. They're a tad thick again, it's hard not to just sit back though and enjoy this track nonetheless, right? Steel River, Chris Rios. I'm trying to get some male vocals, get a sense of that. A classic track. Again, you could just sit back and enjoy exceptional vocals. The Neo 5 makes it really enjoyable. It does male vocals really well. So, I mean, if you prioritize male or female vocals over male vocals, the Neo 5 might not be your first choice. Do they do them horribly? No. They just so you know, it adds probably a little bit more in there. And you can change a little bit of that by ear tips and cable, right? Helps a little bit. And of course sources as well. All that comes into play. Speaking of sources, all my last impressions are all done on my Topping A90D and Shelly Labs J2. So can't fault me on my gear. It's about as clean as I think you can get. And I enjoy them quite a bit. The End by the Kings of Leon. This can be a really busy track too. There's some left and right separation. Center vocals are prominent. Instrumental mix is prominent. And the Neo 5 did this very well. It still lets you pick up details and keeps the vocals very organic. So that's how it played back that. Nothing got kind of washed out. It was great. So You Make Loving Fun, Fleet Mac. So on this song, you can tell the highs are rolled off. The vocals comes across as fantastic and on even par with the low end. But on other IMs that have more treble energy, you can get more sparkle and details that I like a little bit more in this particular track. So number 12D by Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. It's a great presentation, lots of note weight here. Again, I'd love to have a little bit more resolution. You needed more high frequencies to do that, to get the pulls and the slides perfect sounding. Did it play it well? It played it well. Again, if you had more treble energy, you would pick up on those details, those nuances more. And again, you're not going to hear that difference unless you had better IEMs that you were doing an A-B comparison with, right? Nothing Else Matters, another track by Miley Cyrus. I love this one. Bass hits go low. There's no mid-bass bloat to screw up her vocals, and that's what I'm looking for in this track, and it did it really well. Ghost Story by Sting. Again, I should just stop doing male vocals because we all know they sound really, really nice and very well balanced in the overall mix. Final one, and again, I was kind of gravitating to more rock music because why play something that the Neo 5 isn't going to do, like classical or some jazz? I wouldn't pick this IEM up for that. It's just not articulate enough, not detailed enough, not airy enough to do those properly. So, but for rock, and this is my comments, for me, the reason I would pick up this set for a kick-ass session, for a bout of rock music, the Neo 5 goes loud, it belts out some serious jams. So that kind of sums it up. And at that point, you know, me taking, like, writing just 15 notes versus, and then listening to a whole bunch, right? I should actually tell you guys that. I mean, if you haven't watched my channel before and hear me say it, my review process is maybe different from other people. I see other people take them out of the box, stick them in their ears, and go, oh yeah, it sounds like that. Well, I don't do that. For me, I take them out of the box, I take some pictures, I measure them on my graph rig, and I do a brief listen. And I've said this before, if you don't actually like something when you put in your ears for the first listening, you're not ever going to love it. And in this case, I knew I was going to love it because I put it in my ears right out of the box. There's no burn-in, and I thought it sounded fantastic. Now, that being said, I threw it on a burning rig for, I don't know, about 5 solid days, and then I listened to it, took a whole bunch of track impressions, started doing comparisons, one other. And then at that point, a few weeks ago, I just kind of burned out a bit. And I didn't want to listen to anything. I just wanted to enjoy music. And that's when I put these away and I started listening to some of my other favorite sets. For me. Right? And reset myself. And then I came back to these and when I felt like it and listened to it again. And it's really interesting when you do that because I think you have a honeymoon stage where everything sounds good. And then you have an analytical stage, for me anyway. And then I have a realistic stage of where I'm listening for it, and I'm the honeymoon stage is over, and I'm really trying to find things that I think what do they really sound like? I mean, don't sugarcoat it. If it sounds like ass, it sounds like ass. If it sounds wonderful, it sounds great. If it's sibilant, it is what it is. Let's get into overall impressions about the Neo 5. I think this new tuning has taken a great direction. It's a different direction from the H50, and if they keep going and refining this, I'm down. The bass lines come off, again, more sub-focused or lower bass focused over mid-bass, but still has tons of energy in the mid-bass to make drums, instrumental, sound impactful, and vocals and mids using the stock cable were great. And I think the overall presentation is still going to be slightly warmer. Now, that being said, I switched over to that other G4-ish cable with gold and silver in it, and I like the way it changed slightly. So you cable non-believers, again, I don't care. If you believe me or not, I can hear a difference. And if it's mental, then it is. But whatever. And I liked the sound of it. And after my tip rolling, the JVC spiral dots were the correct one for me. I find the Neo 5 mids fairly neutral. They're not forward. They're not recessed in the mix. And definitely on the slightly darker side versus thin and sharp. So that's how I thought the Neo 5 sounded like. Treble on the Neo 5 is fairly relaxed. It gives plenty of sparkle still, but treble heads you need not apply. The relaxed treble makes the Neo 5 an easy listen. It's fatigue-free. And for treble-sensitive people, yep, that'll work for you. Rock, EDM are the genres to dial up the volume and enjoy a seriously long jam session. Can easily be done. Stage was average, like I said. I wouldn't call it 3D. I wouldn't call it holographic. I'd say it's decently wide and high. I want it all. For instance, by Queen. It shows that the Neo 5 plays back fairly intimate and the center of your head. This kind of stage is great for making an IM that lets you just get absorbed into the music and maybe not so transfixed on spatial placement, if that makes sense. So, instrument separation, air, micro dynamics takes a bit of a hit with the relaxed upper treble energy and being rolled off in the highs. There's a trade-off. And the trade-off is you get a more organic sound versus a more technical set. So if you're looking for a super technical set, this one may not be for you. So in conclusion, I know everyone has different tastes, and we all have different ears. Personally, I like this new direction from ISN, and the Neo 5, I think, would definitely appeal to more people than the tuning of the H50 was. That was more of a niche tuning, as much as I still love that IM. I won't sell it. So, I think at this point, if you're at the point of taking a plunge and you want to get a better quality hybrid, versus maybe, you have a single DD and you want to now move up and you maybe had a hybrid set and it wasn't quite for you. This one's pretty safe. It's a great choice. I think, again, I'll say that, unlike a bunch of lower quality sets I recently reviewed, where you can clearly tell the unnamed BA or the custom BA units, they have a metallic timbre to them in the upper end, and the BA timbre on the Neo 5 is very minimal, almost to zero. It's very well tuned, and it's almost tuned and coherent like a dynamic driver is in the highs. It's a great seamless blending between all of the drivers. I think it's really great for that. If you're looking for a more bassy set, with warmer vocal presentation, and don't prioritize technicalities or a perfectly uncolored sound, the Neo 5 will be for you. I like how the bass of the Neo 5 goes low but doesn't try to overexert itself and push the sub bass into a distortion. I think the driver is well controlled, and it shows the quality of the driver and the good tuning that ISN did here. So, do I think the ISN Neo 5 is an all-rounder? No, I do not. It will work for certain genres better than others. The focus on the 3/4 of the spectrum being the 3/4 of the lower end kind of lends itself towards more of like the rock and EDM kind of sound, right? Classical, some jazz might leave you wanting as well. So I think we all need an IM that you can just jam out at higher volumes and just let you get lost in the music. And I think the Neo 5 does that really well. At an exceptionally good price, I think. It's an easy recommendation, really, to progress your journey deeper into the rabbit hole, for sure, without killing your budget. And I think that's the takeaway for the Neo 5. It's a pretty safe IM, and it's a great listen, and I think it's really good value. So, in comparison, okay, so let's do some comparisons, and I think, and I'll make a point right here, right? So, I think the Neo 5 is a very capable IM, so much so that I'm going to compare it with a few others that I also love very much. And one is my most favorite IM, or it's a race. And I think you can get around $600 now for a XENNS MANGIRD up. I love this IM. It's a hybrid as well, but it's got more drivers and ESTs, and so it's definitely more expensive, right? Over double the price. And the $499 PENON the PENON 10th anniversary, So that's $500. They're both certainly better than the Neo 5. But just considering comparing these other exceptional IMs is speaking volumes to how well tuned the Neo 5 is, and I think what an amazing value it brings in 2023. So, first of all, let's do versus the H50, right? What I said in my H50 review, it's a very easy to listen to IM again. It's not going to blast your eardrums out with overpowering bass because it was mostly mid-bass focused. Nor will it make you totally focus on the vocals. You won't hear sibilants, nor will the H50 blast you with ear-piercing treble. It was pretty relaxed as well, more so than the Neo 5. The H50 is a unique IM that is definitely worth your consideration, and I still feel that today. But the tuning differences are quite noticeable. And I spent a bunch of time A-Bing the sets to get my impressions correct because people were asking. So the H50, it has way more BA timbre and sharpness than the Neo 5, where sometimes the H50 gets close to sibilant for me on certain busy tracks. That splashiness was much better controlled on the Neo 5. And the BAs sounded closer to DD. They really do. Between the two, the Neo 5 still sounds like it has more high-frequency energy over the H50. So the greater mid-bass on the H50 added a special sauce, and I'll pull up a graph to show you the comparison on how they were tuned differently. The mid bass on the H50 really did add a special sauce to bass texture and reverb effects that the Neo 5 didn't have because of the tuning. The H50 was very much mid bass energy forward, and the Neo 5 pushes its lower energy down the spectrum as well. Bass on the Neo 5, though, still sounded quicker, even though with less mid-bass. So that probably says something about the quality of the driver they're using. Stage does have more 3D effect and more height over the H50. Female vocals, Neo 5 was better than the H50. The more energy between the 1 to 3K area is really noticeable between the two sets, giving the vocals a completely different tonality. Definitely more towards my preference for sure. So that was how the two compared. Now if we talk about the XENNS MANGIRD out. So here's where I found a really interesting comparison. And I really do love the bass of the up. And I found the Neo 5 to be honestly very comparable. The same kind of things I loved about the up in its texture of the bass, I found in the Neo 5. And for me, that's a huge win. I love the speediness. I love the slam. I like the fact that it doesn't distort at high volumes. It's quite a win, really, on a sub $300 IM. So here's some differences now, of course, that I found in the mids. And the vocals are more forward on the Neo 5 than the up. But the ups definitely had, out of all of these IMs, and the best vocals and the most natural and the best overall presentation of the vocals, and that was the big difference between the two. The highs, the Neo 5 has BAs, Knowles BAs, and the ups have Sonian and ESTs, so it's going to have more highs. And you could definitely tell the Neo 5 was more relaxed, more laid back, more rolled off than the ups. You get way more sparkle and details, instrument separation, air, female vocals. They all played a huge difference. And the biggest part of what happens when you kind of roll off the high end is in the next part, and I'll talk about stage. So when you listen to an IM and you think it has good stage, it probably does, but compared to what, right? And that's the nice thing about doing side-by-side comparisons, and you get to hear the difference between one and the other. And I would honestly say the Up takes it up 2 levels higher over the Neo 5. It is so much more noticeable in the difference in the stage. The Up is dramatically more 3D. It's wider, it's higher, it has more depth. And again, that's not saying that the Neo 5 is bad. It's just saying the Up is that much better, and it shows why it's double the price. And those ESTs gotta play a big part into that too. And same thing when it comes to the next one, which is the PENON 10th anniversary. So is it fair that I'm doing these comparisons to these higher end IMs? Yeah, because I think the Neo 5 is worthy of these other ones being compared against. And if it gives you a little bit of a sense of how much respect I have at this IM at this price point, I hope I'm bringing that across. So versus PENON 10th anniversary. The PENON 10th anniversary is the bass and the depth and details of the bass and the stereo bass and the reverb you get and the secondary harmonics and that is noticeably different. The PENON 10th really hits my for bass. It goes low, it has slam, it has texture. I really like it. And it's an interesting comparison between what 2 6mm drivers doing versus 1 10mm. The 10th really, the bass for me is the pinnacle, and my preference is it just really hits a sweet spot. Though I really love the Neo 5, the 10th bass for me is awesome. Now the vocals. The 10th, the vocals are presented more forward. It's more V-shaped. It really is. Female vocals are more prestigious on the 10th, where they're a little bit laid back and thick on the Neo 5. So here again, on the 10th, do you get better dynamics? Yeah, it really excelled for micro and macro dynamics. That was one of the things I think it stood out because of the energy that it had on the top and bottom end. Do you get an obvious difference? It was. Why would you pay extra money for the PENON 10th anniversary? Because of that, right? So again, I'm telling you this because as a progression, okay? So if you love the Neo 5, but you're looking for more macro dynamics, more air, more stage, well, here is a great jump that you can go deeper into the rabbit hole. The Neo 5, what it brings to the table is quite remarkable for its price. I mean, again, you must be praised for the execution of its drivers and its overall tuning. I think it did quite well. Anyway, that's it for me on this one. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope it was a bit informative and it gave you a more of a an idea what this is without a paid infomercial. I try to be as honest as I can about what I hear with these to help you out. Thank you very much. And this is the Tone Deaf Monk. My next one up will be on the Simgo EW200. Best under $50 easy. That's coming up next. It's great. I am. Got some more comparisons on the way as well. Oh, and to you Canadians watching, happy Canucks Day. Yeah. I will say something about the Neo 5. With the 4 BAs in here and the Knolls, it is really very little timbre of the BAs. Me speak excellent English, I do. The tonally correct